The little girl's voice was soft, innocent, and barely louder than the gentle music floating through the restaurant, but the moment she spoke, an entire room seemed to stop breathing. "Dad, can I share with them?" Every head at the nearby tables turned toward the child sitting beside one of the wealthiest men in the city. Her tiny finger pointed toward a worn-out single mother and her young son sitting at the table next to them. What happened in the next few hours would change 4 lives forever. Before we begin, if you believe kindness can change destinies and that everyone deserves a second chance, please like this video, comment where you're watching from, share it with someone who believes in compassion, and subscribe to Lifeline Corner for more emotional and inspiring stories. The afternoon sun streamed through the large glass windows of the restaurant, filling the room with warm golden light. It was one of those beautiful days when everything looked perfect from the outside. Expensive cars lined the entrance. Well-dressed guests laughed over meals. Crystal glasses sparkled under the sunlight. At a corner table sat Callan Mercer, a self-made millionaire known throughout the city for building a technology empire from nothing. Newspapers often wrote about his business achievements, but few people knew the truth hidden behind his success. 2 years earlier, his wife had passed away after a sudden illness. Since then, his world had revolved around only one person: his 8-year-old daughter, Soraya. Soraya was the reason he woke up every morning, the reason he continued moving forward, the reason he smiled. That afternoon, Callan had brought her to lunch after her school recital. She was cheerful, excited, and still wearing the tiny silver bracelet she had received for participating. While waiting for dessert, Soraya noticed something no one else seemed to see. At the neighboring table sat a woman in a faded blue dress and a boy around her age. The woman looked exhausted, her hair was tied back carelessly, dark circles rested beneath her eyes. The little boy stared longingly at the plates being carried past by servers. In front of them sat a single bowl of soup and one small bread roll. They were sharing it. The mother kept pretending she wasn't hungry, pushing more food toward her son every time he tried offering some back. Soraya watched quietly, then she noticed something else. The woman secretly checked her purse 3 times. Each time, her face fell a little further. There wasn't enough money. The child understood more than most adults realized. She turned toward her father. "Dad, can I share with them?" Callan followed her gaze. For a moment, he remained silent. Business meetings had trained him to analyze situations quickly, but nothing prepared him for the look in that mother's eyes. It wasn't laziness. It wasn't carelessness. It was exhaustion, the kind that comes from fighting every day just to survive. He nodded gently. Soraya's face lit up. Moments later, she picked up one of the untouched dessert plates and carried it toward the neighboring table. The restaurant became unusually quiet. The woman looked startled, embarrassed, almost frightened, but Soraya smiled with pure sincerity. No judgment, no pity, just kindness. The mother introduced herself as Maribel, and her son was named Theo. At first, Maribel tried refusing. Pride can be a heavy burden when life becomes difficult, but Theo's eyes filled with wonder as he looked at the dessert. Eventually, she accepted. What began as a simple gesture soon turned into a shared conversation. The children laughed together, the adults exchanged cautious smiles, and slowly, stories emerged. Callan learned that Maribel had once worked as a hospital administrator. She had loved her job, she had owned a small home, she had planned a future. Then tragedy struck. Her husband died unexpectedly in a construction accident. Medical bills consumed their savings, legal complications delayed compensation. She lost her home, lost stability, lost nearly everything except her son. For 3 years she worked multiple jobs while raising Theo alone. Every dollar went toward rent, food, and school supplies. Every dream she once had was placed on hold, yet somehow, she continued fighting. Listening to her story, Callan felt something shift inside him, because years earlier, before success arrived, he had known similar struggles. People only remembered the millionaire, they forgot the young man who once slept in his car while trying to launch a business. They forgot the countless nights he survived on instant noodles, they forgot how close he had come to failure. As lunch continued, Soraya and Theo became inseparable. They talked about school, favorite books, and imaginary adventures. For the first time all day, Theo laughed, not a polite laugh, a real one. The kind children make when they forget their worries. Maribel noticed it too, and tears quietly filled her eyes. A mother notices everything, especially the moments her child finally feels happy again. Before leaving, Callan handed Maribel his business card. He offered help. Nothing complicated, just a conversation. An opportunity. A chance. Maribel thanked him politely but seemed uncertain. Life had disappointed her too many times to trust unexpected miracles. Days passed, then weeks. Eventually a call came. Maribel agreed to meet. Callan reviewed her experience and immediately recognized her intelligence. Her resume wasn't weak, her circumstances had simply buried her opportunities. Within a month, she joined one of his companies in an administrative leadership role. It wasn't charity, she earned the position. Everyone who worked with her quickly realized it. Her dedication impressed supervisors, her organizational skills improved entire departments. For the first time in years, stability returned to her life. The apartment became safer, bills became manageable, Theo had proper school supplies, food filled the refrigerator. Small things most people take for granted suddenly felt extraordinary. Meanwhile, Soraya and Theo remained friends. Weekend visits became common. The children explored parks, museums, and libraries together. They built blanket forts, created ridiculous stories, shared endless laughter. Something beautiful was growing between the two families, not romance, not yet, something deeper, trust, healing, belonging. Months later, an unexpected challenge arrived. Soraya collapsed during a school sports event. Tests revealed a serious heart condition that required surgery. The diagnosis shattered Callan. Fear returned with brutal force. He had already lost his wife. The possibility of losing his daughter felt unbearable. The days leading to surgery became some of the darkest of his life. Business no longer mattered, money no longer mattered, only Soraya mattered. During that difficult period, Maribel stepped forward without hesitation. She organized schedules, managed practical responsibilities, stayed at the hospital, supported Callan through endless nights of uncertainty, and Theo did something remarkable. He gave Soraya his most treasured possession. A worn little compass his father had given him before passing away. He told her it always helped him find his way when he felt scared. Soraya carried it everywhere. The surgery lasted hours, hours that felt like years. The waiting room was filled with silence, prayers, and fear. Finally, the surgeon emerged. The operation had succeeded. Relief flooded through everyone. Callan broke down in tears, not because he was weak, because love makes people vulnerable, and for the first time in a very long time, he allowed himself to cry. Recovery took time, but Soraya grew stronger each day. One afternoon, while watching the children laugh together in the hospital garden, Callan realized something. The greatest gift his daughter had ever received wasn't money. It wasn't comfort. It wasn't privilege. It was compassion. The simple act of sharing dessert had created a chain reaction that changed countless lives. A year later, the same restaurant hosted a small celebration. This time, the atmosphere felt different. The tables were filled with warmth. Soraya sat beside Theo. Maribel smiled brighter than she had in years, and Callan looked around the room with gratitude. Near the end of dinner, Soraya stood and raised a glass of lemonade. She reminded everyone of the day she first noticed a tired mother and her son sitting alone. She reminded them that kindness doesn't require wealth. It requires attention, the willingness to see people others overlook, the courage to care. If this story is touching your heart so far, please take a moment to like the video, leave a comment, share it with your friends, and subscribe to Lifeline Corner. Your support helps spread stories that remind the world kindness still exists. Special request: comment below with the word compass if you believe one small act of kindness can help someone find their way again. As the evening came to an end, the children walked outside beneath a bright blue daytime sky painted with soft clouds. The city moved around them as usual, unaware of the miracle that had unfolded between two neighboring tables. Because sometimes life changes not through grand speeches or enormous sacrifices, sometimes it changes because a little girl notices someone else's hunger, sometimes it changes because a child chooses to share, and sometimes the smallest act of kindness becomes the beginning of a completely new future. The millionaire thought he was giving away a dessert that day. In reality, his daughter gave something far more valuable. Hope, and hope, once shared, has a beautiful way of multiplying. That afternoon began with strangers sitting at separate tables. It ended with a family finding its way back to happiness, and years later, whenever anyone asked Soraya what the most important lesson of her life was, she always smiled and remembered that sunny afternoon, because she learned something many adults never do. The richest people are not those who have the most, the richest people are those who never stop sharing what they have with others.